So, it's been a while since I've last made a YouTube video. I've been busy with school, but there's something more important that we need to talk about right now, which is Spotify, specifically Spotify's approachment to developers. So recently I've started a new project called OSUS, OSUS, and the idea behind it was that using your beatmap activity, you could generate a Spotify playlist based on it, right? So depending on the accuracy, depending on your best performance, you can automatically generate it instead of having to do it manually. So I started work on that development. I've been using Nuxt for the development of it. However, there's a new problem that I've been facing, which didn't arise during development, because obviously during development it wasn't as much of an issue because I had my own developer account. And that issue is the access to Spotify's API, and specifically the limiting amount of it. Now, for one, there's two types of modes that your Spotify API can be in. It can either be in development mode or extended access mode. And for my project, if I wanted it to be public and shared with other people, then you would have to get extended access. And traditionally, the process in which to get that, you had to submit a form to Spotify, and Spotify would say yes or no as to whether or not your app can do that. And it's still this way. The process of applying for an extended access API is still there. However, there are new limitations they placed in just during May that limits small developers, independent developers, from doing anything with Spotify. And I'll flash up on the screen right now what their new requirements are for anyone that wants to use the API. But simply put, me as a person, me as an individual, I cannot meet half of these requirements in order to have the extended access API. And that's extremely limiting to my project, because now my project can't accept general users. Rather, if you wanted to set up OSUS, if you wanted to use it, you have to set up your own Spotify development app, change some configuration settings, and then run it yourself. And that's simply annoying. It's a pain in the ass. And Spotify is very much killing their developer base by doing this, right? I've been browsing the forums as to what other people have been doing and what they've been saying, because obviously, I've been doing development for about 2 days straight. It's not like my project's anytime big, not like this type of years that some other people have worked on their projects. But if you go to Spotify's developer forums right now, if you look at the post where they introduced this new change, right, just a month ago, if you look in the comments, almost everybody, it just doesn't make sense. Because for Spotify, one of the biggest problems is that, number one, you have to be a licensed business. And as an individual, I don't have that, right? I don't have the ability to create a company and make a company for something that doesn't even, it's just for a specific niche use case. And secondly, they require 250,000 monthly active users before your implementation or your usage or application for the API, as well as there has to be some level of monetary benefit that your project or your product, I think a better term is product, in order to apply. Now, that immediately kills any kind of innovation, because the whole premise behind my idea was not to be some corporate, some product where you have to pay money or there's ads written everywhere. No, my project was wanted to be a completely free and open source project where you can, do all these things that I wanted it to do, and there was no monetary interest I had personally in it. The only type of monetary interest I put on there was a donate button to my Buy Me a Coffee. And as a result, what I'm left with is kind of all this work for nothing. Now, there are some workarounds that I've been working on. I've done some workarounds in intercepting, in using kind of Spotify's own authentication, because Spotify uses the same authentication protocol as they do for developers for apps, right, which is OAuth. And you have an authorization header with a specific access token. And what I found out last night is that access token can actually do a lot with the Spotify API without having to use the request, right? Without having to use their my OAuth app that I created on the Spotify developer dashboard. However, it's also limited for some reason as well, in the sense that you can do almost everything except search for tracks. which is one of the most important things for my project, right? You need to be able to search the beat map name in order to figure out, hey, this is the Spotify ID, so I can add it to a playlist. For everything else, I can log in, I can check my user details, I can create a new playlist, I can add songs to a playlist if I'm given the Spotify ID, but without the ability to search for the playlist or search for the songs to get that ID, it's pointless, right? So right now I've actually been doing some workarounds, looking at other APIs like Last.fm, Song.link, all of these that provide some kind of information to Spotify, yet also their APIs are limited in some kind of way where there's not an immediate solution. And this is the big problem. Unless these kinds of gatekeeping for these small project ideas, these niche project ideas, unless they're lifted, there's no such thing as innovation. There is only ever going to be the same corporate shit that happens over and over again with these apps, because the only way to make an app to use the Spotify API is to be a corporation, and that app is just going to be some corporate product, right? Trying to sell to you or sell you. There's no such thing as individuality and the ability as an individual developer to build something great with the Spotify API. And this is awful, right? Spotify has one of the largest monopolies on streaming services, even though they're failing as a company, right? They have reported much loss, not really much profit at all. They're still losing money each day, and they're only trying to make it even harder for any kind of innovative thing to bring people more to Spotify to do such. And I've been reading the forums as to what could be the possible rise, the possible reason behind it, and the likely answer is AI, right? People are using the Spotify API to scrape songs and download their song tracks, because Spotify offers something called the playback API, and the playback API will send the raw audio file through it, when in fact a lot of small developers from what I read have nothing to do with that kind of track. We don't need the playback feature, we don't need the audio for it. We really don't. I mean, all I need is metadata information. All I need is be able to search up the title of some songs and be able to get the ID for that. It's ridiculous. It's stupid, right? And this AI music and this use of AI to train, or the use of Spotify to train AI, it hurts everybody. It hurts the environment through all that wasteful AI, because a lot of people don't really care about the products. A lot of people don't care about some AI music maker, right? And second, it kills creativity. AI is not creative anyway. I use AI myself. I use it, I've made videos on AI, but I recognize that it's not a creative process, and it isn't some kind of replacement for genuine creativity. And I use AI in my coding projects to help me with stuff, but it's not coding my projects in the same way that stupid vibe coding shit that's happening right now. It's pointless. It's ridiculous. And this AI thing is hurting everybody. It's hurting every developer out there. Because, well, it's not just me, only my project, but it's other people's projects. People's hard-worked projects where they've put in years of effort, many times applying to the Spotify developer to get an extended access API, and Spotify saying no. Like, at this point, what's the point? It doesn't make any sense. And that's where I'm at right now, right? I just finished my 11th year of high school. Finished all my exams. I'm in my second year of the IB program. And I'm just trying to do some development. But for now, for OSIS, for the project, for any project whatsoever that relies on some other people's APIs, some way of me having to contact them to get an API key, and some kind of capitalist overlord like Spotify, until then, I can't do anything. Until then, OSIS will only live as a project idea. And OSIS is not just the project. It speaks greater to what it actually means to be a developer in today's world. Alright, this is my rant. Thank you so much, guys.